Hello everyone, I'm Kamilkime and today I want to show you my new plugin called KImageTerrain. So maybe first, what exactly is this plugin? I think it's far more useful for the people who create maps for roleplay servers or things like this. You could create almost any terrain using this plugin. Basically, you can take an image, then say to the plugin what color means what blocks and etc. And then transfer this image into terrain in Minecraft or biomes. There are two different modes. You can transfer images into terrain or biomes. But I don't think it would be useful when you have terrain like 16 by 16 blocks. These are the things that you can make easily by hand. But if you would have terrain like 2000 by 2000 blocks, well, then this plugin can be useful. Because not using this plugin, but using, for example, World Edit, I don't think it would be easy to do something like this, because like that, if you use World Edit, it's hard to make something look natural, like for example mountain edges or things like this. So if you have a big map to do, like right now on the screen you will have the map for the Westeros Craft server. They have a pretty big map, like 23,000 wide and 60,000 high, I think. So that's the map that it would be hard to make by hand or by World Edit. Okay, so now you know what can you use this plugin for. Installation is pretty easy. You just download the KImageTerrain file and put it in here in the plugins folder, then run the server once, so the plugin creates its own folder. After the plugin creates these files, you will have 3 files here. Images folder, I have some images. Your of course will be empty. But here you can place the images that you will be transferring into Minecraft. For example, I'll show you later how to transfer that island into Minecraft and that island into Minecraft. And some own scheme files I'll talk about later. You also have here save data, YML. You don't have to touch this file, its data will be loaded from it and written to it automatically. That's the file that will store all the saved biome and terrain tasks and some values for statistic purposes, because this plugin uses MC-stats, so I get statistics from the server I want to get, because right now I don't get any stats, but I want to get stats about what schemes people use, what terrain, what task types people use more often, and how people create those tasks, so using GUI or using a command. Config file. Configuration is also quite easy. If you want, you can leave it unchanged. Config version, you shouldn't touch it. It's something I used to to check if the config is up to date, and if it isn't, I create a new config and save all as config old. Security password. You should change it as soon as you start configuring this file. It's a password that is used to authorize the biggest decisions. So you have to use this password to accept the tasks. So first you have to be an op to even use a command, and then you have to know that password to authorize your decision. It's like the second security layer that allows you to be sure that even if someone somehow obtains an op, he or she cannot use this plugin because wouldn't know this password. Of course, if someone has access to this file, it's quite useless, but unless they have such access, I think it can be quite useful. Terrain change at once and biome change at once. Basically, it's the same, but this is used when you start a terrain task, and this is used when you start a biome task. It's how many blocks, well, not blocks, how many columns are changed at once. So this will change 1000 columns every 40 ticks. This is the value that will interval between those changes, so it is given in ticks. So 40 ticks equals 2 seconds, so every 2 seconds the plugin will try to change 1000 columns. I think it's, of course, the biome changing is easier to do because you just change one value about the block, and here you have to change 2057 blocks. So 1000 columns is 2057,000 blocks. But when I have 2 gigabytes of RAM on my server, it's generally okay. That 1000 blocks per 2 seconds. No lags. It's like, I think the server has like 19.5 tick per second. So these values are, I think, should be okay for you. You don't really have to change them. Use alpha. If you want, you can, when giving the colors that are on the picture, you can use alpha. It's a value that describes transparency of the pixel. This will increase the possible colors you can use from about 60 million to about 4 billion, but I don't think it's really so useful, so it's false by the default. Always place bedrock. If this is true, then the plugin will always first place the bedrock at Y level 0, so the deepest block of the map, and then start building all the other blocks upon it. And if this is true, then even if you want something to be placed at Y level 0, the plugin will ignore it. Error if null. So if you, for example, have blocks placed from level 1 to 52, but you don't really care about blocks from 53 to 2056, the plugin will then place error on these blocks. So if some blocks are so basically it will clear the rest of the column that it will clear the rest of the blocks that were not not change with this scheme. Resume save task if the server is starting and it has some saved task from the previous run of the server. It will resume those tasks and start them up again. If this resume save task is equal to false, then this save task will just be deleted. Broadcast task, it will just broadcast a message on chat when the task is started and finished. It will broadcast to all people on the server. Default if terrain null. So if the plugin finds a pixel on the image, but it won't have any scheme for that particular color. So if you, for example, have a green pixel, but the plugin doesn't know what to do with that green pixel, then it will do this. So then it will place, for example, dirt at 1 to 50. This is the minimum Y and maximum Y. So because I have always placed bedrock, then at Y level 0 bedrock, from Y level 1 to Y level 50 dirt, and then at Y level 51 grass. And you can also do, for example, something like this. So log, for example, 3 at 52. So you can, after the colon, I think it's called the colon, after the colon you can also give the metadata. And the same is for biome scheme. So if you transfer images into biomes and the pixel is unknown, then it will apply that biome and add that block. And then are the schemes. They basically work the same, but they have that part. First they have that part. This is the color. The color is given in RGB, and then you could also give alpha, but if that use alpha setting is equal to false, even if you give that alpha value after the comma, it will be ignored. So it just looks at the pixel at that image. So for example, this is the yellow color. So it will find these pixels, this yellow. So in Minecraft it will be a nice beach, but here it is just a yellow color. So the plugin knows when it finds that yellow pixel on the image that it has to place dirt from 1 to 50 and sand at 51. Try not to place too much sand. So don't do something like place sand from 1 to 51, because if you place too much sand, gravel, and basically all those things that have gravity, the server is really likely to crash, because it has to render so many things that have gravity, and even if the plugin works pretty fast and it doesn't allow all the sand to collapse, it will eventually collapse. And well, don't place too much sand, basically. And you can, this is the universal terrain scheme. So this is the scheme of the terrain tasks that every image can use. And this is the universal biome scheme, so the same as default if biome null, but with the scalar before the biome name. And this is the same as universal terrain scheme, so every biome task can use this universal or its own its own scheme file. I will show right now how to do this. So you can use this universal, or every image can have its own scheme. Basically, all you do is take this name of an image without the PNG ending. So in this case, for example, it will be island, and just make a file with the extension YML. So for island PNG, it would be island YML, and you just place a terrain scheme section, do everything the same as it is in the universal scheme in config file, so color and then all those blocks with corresponding Y levels. And you can also do this for biomes. Then the section is called biome scheme, not terrain scheme. And you can also have terrain scheme and biome scheme in one file. There's no problem with doing such thing. The next thing I would like to talk about is image creation. It looks like it's easy, but you have to remember about something. I use Paint.net. I think in Microsoft's Paint it would be the same. But when you do something if you use, for example, a paintbrush, it's quite small right now, but if I did it something like this, you could see that it creates, of course, that black color that I wanted, but also some lighter color and more transparent color here. And it's quite shit, I forgot the word. So you have to turn off some settings so you don't have that thing, because if you want just black and you have that more transparent color on the edges, the plugin will not know what to do with that color. Because if you program just black color, those slightly more transparent and lighter edges won't be recognized, and you will have just that default terrain, default if terrain null scheme applied. So you have in Paint.net you have to turn off, I don't know how is it in English. I would say that you have to turn everything that would cause some blur on the edges. So now when I turned it off, it looks more awful, of course, but as you can see, we have just that black and no transparent and no lighter pixels here. So that's what you want to do. Or you could have that that blur on the edges, but then you have to remember that that you have to program that so the plugin knows what to do with it. Okay, so 19 minutes, okay. Now I will show you how to use this plugin. I think I have just a blank world right now, yes. So, main plugin command, KTerrain. Creating the task is managed just by the KTerrain command without any arguments, so you just add arguments here. So you could say that the main command would be KTerrain help. So we'll just go one by one by all these commands. KTerrain info is just some small info about the plugin, like that. KTerrain arguments and args we'll cover in a minute. KTerrain images, it just shows all the images that you can use with this plugin that it found, and you can also see that it shows you whether the image has its own scheme file or not. So we have all those images, they are all found, and we have three own scheme files: blank, blank B, and island. So blank has own scheme file, blank B has own scheme file, and island has own scheme file. Then we have KTerrain check image. This is a pretty important command. You just give it an image, so it would be, for example, island, and now you can add that -u argument. It means that you want to force the plugin to check an image using universal scheme, because if you don't add this, first it will try to find the scheme file for that image in the images folder, and if it doesn't find this file, or the file is, for example, empty, then it will use the universal. Oh, and you have to do like this. I always forget. Oh, so I have to change this later. You add that -y, then the image name. It can contain spaces, so I could add something like this here. Then you have -b for biome task and -t for terrain task. Right now I'll use a terrain task, and that u that can force the universal scheme. So it checks every pixel. That's how it works. It checks every pixel one by one and checks if it has a scheme for this pixel. If it doesn't, it tells you. For example, if I would run this, but checking for the biome task, not for the terrain task, it would show all the colors that it found on an image, but are not configured in on scheme file or the universal file. Right now it used the universal file because in the island we don't have that biome scheme section. We just have that terrain scheme section. So the next command is KTerrain tasks. It just shows all running tasks. No, right now we don't have any running tasks, so it just shows that there are no running tasks. And here you would also have task IDs. So from 0 to how many are running right now? -1. And then you can use it in the KTerrain task command. You just give task ID, for example 0, and arguments T for terminate, S for save, and TS for terminated save. So the first will just terminate the task, end the task basically, and don't save it, so you would have to run the task from the beginning if you want to run it once again. Then you have that S argument that will just save the task to the file, and TS that will save the task to the file and terminate it. So when you, for example, reload the server or restart the server, and you have that resume tasks setting in config file set to true, you can start the task again. And the last command, KTerrain accept, and then that security password. It will be something like change me now, I think. So you are not preparing any task right now. If you would be preparing a task, the task will just be accepted. So now we have just that bare command, KTerrain. And here you can add various arguments to start the task and start sculpturing the terrain or start changing the biomes. Under KTerrain args there are all arguments you can use. So the image arguments is the same as in the KTerrain check command. So I will just start this for the island image. It will be a terrain sculpturing task type. I can use universal. I can force universal scheme, or I can just leave it so it so the plugin will choose whether to use a universal or not. You can specify a custom start location. By default, the plugin will start sculpturing the terrain or changing biomes from point 0, 0, so x equal to 0 and z equals 0, and it will continue towards positive coordinates. So if I start at 0, 0 and have an image that is 64 by 64, I will end at 64 by 64. So I can, for example, start it at minus 100, minus 300. That way you can create an image that is, for example, 10,000 by 10,000. Then you can turn that image into 4 smaller, 2000, so like 2500 by 2500. And then you can run every image at separate start location, so it creates one bigger, if you want. And then we can add W argument and just specify a world name. So the word, you just specify the world in which you want the task to run. By default it will be the overworld, so the first world that my plugin will find on the world list. So I could here, for example, give world nether, but I will just leave it default to make it here. Before the task starts, you have a task summary, so the image that will be used, task type, terrain or biome, use scheme, own, some from the file or from the config file, then it will be universal. Start position of sculpturing or biome changing, finish position, and columns that will be changed. You have 30 seconds to accept the task using the KTerrain accept command. I will do it now. If you KTerrain like that, accept, and now if I write wrong password, so for example I write something like this, every admin that is on the server, I think it's the permission kterrain.notify, by default every op has this setting, so every person that has that permission on the server will be informed that someone used incorrect security password and tried to accept the task without knowing the password, or it was just a mistake. But that way you will know that someone had access to the KTerrain command, but maybe didn't know the security password. And you have a little spam on the console, like 5 times it shows that someone typed incorrect security password. So in my case it's change me now, I think, and it just started. I have now to find that place where the task is going on, so it should be somewhere. It was minus, so it should start somewhere. Yes, here. So as you can see, it started sculpturing the terrain, and I think it in something like 2 minutes it should create the whole island with that nice water around it. So we can now see that KTerrain tasks command shows us that the task 0 for image island, task type terrain, it uses own scheme file, inward world, start position, finish position, and progress. So right now it changed 31,000 columns from something above 65 that it has to change. And we can terminate the task KTerrain task 0. I will terminate it and save it, so the task will stop. You can see that because I have that broadcast enabled, task for image island has just finished. This is that broadcast, and task 0 has been terminated and saved. Right now in the saved data file I have that task saved, and if I reload the server, the task will start automatically because I have that resume tasks setting in the config file enabled. So that's about the terrain changing, but you can also change biomes. I have that island B, or we can just use that blank BB maybe. And now the second way you can create the task, you can make it using commands. I think it would be useful from console and console, aircon, things like this. But from the game, I think it's easier to create the task using -G, so it will open the GUI. Here you can change the image. I will look for the blank BB, so it shows the name of an image that will be used. Then you can change the world. I will just do it in the world. There you can change the task type, so biome changing or terrain changing. I want to change biome. Scheme universal. If the image has its own scheme file and you can use its own scheme, then you will be able to change this in here. So I could show you that when I switch to blank PNG, I can change between universal and own. But for blank BB I cannot, because blank BB doesn't have its own file. So before finishing, check everything. I want to change here on that island all those biomes, so I'll also check that custom start point. So check everything before finishing. Blank BB, world, biome, universal, yes. Finish. You just enter the x coordinate of the task start point. I think it was something like -100. Yes, you just type it on chat. It's just cancelled and taken. The message is cancelled and taken by the plugin, so no one even sees that you type this. You just type those two coordinates and accept the task. So I have that somewhere. Yes. It does it really quickly because I have that set to make 20,000. So Sometimes it refreshes those biomes for the player, sometimes it doesn't. Basically the best thing you can do is just relog, and you can see that the biome was changed. So now it is a desert biome as I wanted, and there was Mushroom Island before. So basically that's what the plugin does. I say too much, basically in general. That's what the plugin does. I hope it will be useful for you, and now you know how to configure it and use it. Just before finishing, you can find the source code of the plugin on GitHub. The link will be in the description and on the plugin page on Spigot.mc. And I would like to remind once again that this plugin uses metrics from mcstats.org. You can disable those metrics in the opt-out section of the config file in the plugin metrics folder, but those metrics are just I just collect basic things about your server, so I can even show you what do I collect. Just global statistics, so how many servers are running this plugin, how many players are on these servers, task types, so terrain or biome, use schemes, so own and universal, task creation by command or by GUI, what versions of plugins are people using, what game versions are those servers running, if the server is running offline or online mode, server software, so Spigot, CraftBucket, Bungie, etc. Server locations, so where the server machine is. Right now my computer is in Poland. Java version the server is running, so in my case 1.8 update 45. Operating system, I have Windows 10. It shows that it is Windows 8.1. Okay. System cores, so how many CPU cores does the system have? Mine has 4. And system architecture, so 32 or 64-bit. Your server cannot be tracked, so I do not collect I don't know, IP, some passwords or anything like this. Just those things that you can see on that site, nothing else. Your server is totally fine. I just do this so I know how many people use this plugin and how do they use this plugin, so I can so it's easier for me to think about updates and things like this. So thanks for watching, and I hope the plugin will be useful.